Hello everybody, welcome into my Watch Me Wednesday, episode number 102. Yes, 102, do you believe it? So today, I have to say, having a little trouble with the video format going horizontal. So I am, and I don't know if it's the rotation in my phone because that's where I video from. If it's the rotation, my phone won't allow it to go horizontal, so I apologize. We are vertical today, so there's not as much space this way for me to show you as many things. So it's a technical thing. I don't know why it's happening. I don't get it. Anyway, today I'm going to be talking about batiks and a little bit about the process of batiking, as I know many of you are probably interested in that. So that is the topic for today. Welcome in everybody. If you would care to, please share the video now. So I'm going to get started to talk about the batiking process and how it starts on my end and how it ends up in your hands. So I know I've spoken about it before in the past, but I want to go over it again. So hit that share button. So as many of you know, I design batiks for Island Batik, and I really enjoy doing it. Batiking is a whole different process than screen prints than what you're used to getting. So it is all hand done. It is touched by many, many hands. I work out 2 years in advance of when my designs come out, and then by the time you see them in a shop, it's probably about 2.5 years. So how the process starts is that I draw up designs that I want for a collection, and I usually do about 6 for a collection, 6 different designs. And then I send those designs into Island Batik, and they will send them to Bali to see if they can be made into copper chops. Now, when I say chops, you're hearing CHOPS, but it's really spelled TJAPS, chops. And a lot of you see stamps that you can use for batiking, but these are special. They're they're all made out of copper wire, so they need to see and determine if your designs the designs that I've handed in, drawn out, can be made into chopper crops. Now I have a few examples here. Some that I've acquired. Island Batik basically keeps all the chops in case shops request a reorder. So I don't get those chops. I'm hoping to get some of them back at some point. But these are ones that I found along in my travels. So I wanted to show you, and I want to show you some up close of these. This is one that I have had for a while. As you can see, these are tiny, tiny, tiny little pieces of copper wire that they form. This is very, very heavy, by the way, that they form into this stamp. It's got a, oops, I'm getting caught. It's got a handle on the back. So the artisan will then dip this into hot wax and they will stamp the fabric. I'm going to show you a couple other examples of the copper chops before I show you the fabric and kind of what it comes out to. Here's one that I found a couple weekends ago in one of my favorite little shops in Scottsdale. They travel all over the world, but you can see how tiny and detailed those are in reference to my finger here. They're all little tiny pieces of copper wire. And again, this one has the handle on the back so the artisan can grab hold of it to create that stamp. Here's another one that I found at the same little shop that I love in Scottsdale, Arizona, Tierra del Lagarto. This one is a great border print, so they would stamp it along and you get like a great border. But again, see those tiny little pieces of copper? They form it into this copper chop. This is one I actually found, and I liked it a lot. It doesn't have a handle on it, but I found it, I believe it was on Etsy. It doesn't have a handle, but isn't that beautiful? It's a flower. The handle must have come off. but I really, really loved the design, so I purchased that from the Etsy seller. So that is another batik up, and here comes my quilt inspector. He may get in the picture here in a minute. Do you want me to open the window for you? Oh, there he is. Say hello, quilt inspector. Now you're taking up the phone. You got to move out of the way, baby. That was my quilt inspector coming in for a hello. I'm going to open up the window for him because I think he might want to just, oh, maybe not. We'll go over there and lay down. So he's laying down over there. So anyway, the copper chops, they get made, and then what happens is, once they're made and they're able to be made, then I do my colorations for a collection. So as you know, my new ancient etchings collection is in my shop, and so I did a lot of bright palette on that, and I'll show you a couple examples and talk about how the chop and the colors were done. But they start off with a white gray good like this. So, and then what happens is the artisan will they start off with 15-yard cuts typically, but they'll dip this stamp in a hot wax and they'll stamp it all along here. So they do this all day long. It's a handmade process. Where that wax is, it doesn't soak in color, so they over dye that. So what happens is, so I showed many of you. So here's like my llama print. So for example, the llama chop, where the llama was stamped on here, it would show up white because they over dye this at the dark orange, which is the background. Then what they do is they put it in boiling water to get all that wax off. Then they over dye it again with the light orange, which is what I had asked. So it's this is kind of like a tone on tone print because I did a light orange and a dark orange. So that's basically how the process works. So they stamp with the wax. They then melt, they do the over dye, then they melt that wax off and then over dye it again. So then you get the two colors, which is on the llamas. So isn't that cool? So same process. Here's one of the weaving prints. So I had drawn up this weave design, same deal. Dark yellow on the background, light yellow where the chop was. The condors, a little bit more tone on tone because it's the dark red with the light red as the background. And I got the llamas again. I have loved the llamas, by the way. So the llamas, this is like a purple or a deep magenta, and again, it's the dark. And I was going for tone on tone with this particular collection, so that's why you see a lot of it in this collection. And then the turquoise, so it's this time it was a different color for the llamas. It was a darker turquoise. But then you also have prints that are multi-colors, and this is one of my favorite in my collection, is this multi-print. This is the Incan cross, or the Southern Cross, you could say. But I wanted the background multi-dyed, so I have the pinks and the oranges and the yellows. And so they stamp it, they over dye it several times to get the multi. And that's one of my favorite prints in the collection. So that's how that's done. And I also did black and whites in the collection too. So you can see this is the same print but done in the black and white. So you get that same process. So that's really kind of, I mean, that's a really short description of how batiks are made. You know, but again, if you can remember that it is a hand process that's done. Here you go, buddy. There's my quilt inspector. He's looking for something to lay on. I think I'll give him some fabric. But anyway, it's a tedious process. It's a long process, and it's why it takes 2 years. Starting with the drawings to finding out whether or not they can actually create your drawings in the chopper cop. If they can't, then you have to redo that. Redo your drawings, and then you do your colorations. They go back, and then I do usually the colorations. I'll do probably about somewhere between 150 to 200 different color colorations. So they send them all back to me. So I usually do a lot of like one particular chop. So like of the llama, I had, I don't know, maybe 40 different colorizations of the llamas. Then when they come back, then I choose the ones that I like the best, because I have to narrow it down to 20 for the collection. So if I do 6 chops in a collection, you know, that's about approximately 4 colors per chop. So I have 4 llamas, 4 condors, 4 Southern Cross, that kind of thing. So you narrow it down from a wide selection, and remember, they're hand dyed, so they're gonna have a lot of variation in it. So they don't always come back the way you want. So that's why you put in more colorations than you think you're actually gonna need. And then once you have your colorations picked, then it goes back to Island Batik. Then they order the amount of fabric that I will need to create quilts to show how I'm going to use that collection at Quilt Market. I get bolts, an entire collection of the bolts to work with, and make the quilts and projects and things that go in the catalog and will go in my booth at Quilt Market. They go to Quilt Market, and then at Quilt Market, that's where shops will buy in the fabric. Then it's another about 4 months or so past Quilt Market when shops start getting that in. So it's a long time before you actually see what I've been working on for a good 2 to 2.5 years in advance. So my ancient etchings collection, I was working a long time ahead before you could get it now, which is what you which is what you can purchase now on my site. So it's a long, long process, and it really makes you appreciate the artisans in Bali that go ahead and make what's in your head, and they put it into fabric, and then we deliver it to you. So I hope that that gives you a little bit more of appreciation for what goes on kind of behind the scenes, so that we can get it to you and that you could put it into your projects. I design and make what's in my heart and what's in my head and create, and I hope that all of you who follow me and make quilts and projects also like what I'm putting out there too. It is a fun, creative thing to do, and it's kind of neat to see your designs and things come to life, not only on fabric, but in your projects. So I appreciate all of you for supporting me in my process, and I hope I gave you a little bit of insight as to how the process works. So I appreciate you all joining me for this, and I have a couple little public service announcements too. So first, I just wanted to tell you, if you haven't joined in on my online class, Paper Piecing, the Cactus in Bloom quilt, you might want to consider doing that. It's been fantastic so far. We have quite a few enrollees in there, actually a lot of enrollees in there who are enjoying it, and a lot of them have completed the class. They've gone through it once, and now they're going back and making their projects. But I will forewarn you that I have an introductory price only through February 29th. So you can still get in on that class at the introductory price through February 29th. I'll put the link for you above my head. So if you're considering purchasing it, or possibly you know a friend that might want to purchase it, share this video after I'm all done, and it'll have the link above there. And also click on the link, and if you click on the link, you can read a lot more about the class too. A lot of people have been loving the class, and I really appreciate that they are in there, and I've been answering questions, and we've been kind of having a lot of fun. And also on the Facebook group, I'll put that up there. So if you're interested, definitely go for it. One other thing, and then I'm gonna go because I got some work I got to take care of. I have put some new things up on my schedule on my website. I have 4 cruises coming up, 4 quilting cruises coming up, and I'd love for you to join me. I have one coming up next year, next summer. 2021. It's going to Alaska, so join me on that. I have another one January of next year. It's going to be in the Caribbean, but it is a batik cruise, and we are in St. Kitts, so we get to go visit a batik factory and can make our own batiks. So those are two really cool ones. Then I have one in November coming up where we're going from New Jersey to Galveston, Texas, and that's going to be super cool. And I have, excuse me, if you're so inclined and you want, I have one coming up at the end of March too. But quilting and cruising is a lot of fun. If you haven't tried it, join me and my fellow teachers. There's a couple other teachers that are on the cruise as well, and I think you'll enjoy the classes. So check out my schedule, and I'll put that link above me as well. So anyway, I gotta fly. So I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I hope you enjoyed all the information I gave you. Happy quilting, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.